I am not where I want to be yet. When you haven't had a win in a long time, you start to doubt yourself because you start to bet on the side of losing. Every single self-made person that's chased their dream and found success, what they always say is to basically... Hey y'all, it's Rooi. How's it going? No, seriously. How's it going? Be honest. You know how when people ask you that, typically it's just like a greeting, a formality, and you're supposed to be like, oh yeah, I'm fine, how are you? Well, because of that, my response has been so like programmed into my head that like one time I was calling with my friend and she asked me that, she was like, how are you doing, Rooi? And then I did my program response where I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And then immediately after I was like, I don't know why I said that. Actually, I've been terrible. And speaking of being terrible, I've been in kind of a funk the past few days. I wouldn't say I've been terrible, but it's definitely been a funk and I'm slowly starting to get out of it. But this is a recurring kind of thing for me. Every once in a while, I get in kind of a funky mood. And whenever I sit down and ask myself why I feel that way, it always comes down to the same core reason, which is that I am not where I want to be yet. Having a dream in life is nice in that it gives you a very strong sense of purpose, but it is also scary to care so much about anything really, especially something that's not in reach to you right now. There are days where I feel like my goals are so far away from me and I'm not making enough progress fast enough, and it makes me very anxious. Some people have very specific dreams. They want to travel the world, or they want to become an astronaut. They want to get married and have 2 kids. But I think for most of us dreamers, our dreams are kind of vague. In my case, pretty much all I've ever really wanted to do since I could remember, since I was born from all I know, is to make cool things that I'm proud of. And so my dream is to be able to keep doing that while also being able to financially sustain myself off of doing that. But what exactly cool things that I'm proud of is pretty vague. It's not always the same thing. There are recurring themes for sure, such as arts and crafts, music, games, media, etc. But I've yet to figure out how all of these themes come together to accomplish the, not being broke side of my dream. Will I have multiple small streams of income from my various interests? Or will I find something that combines various interests into one? I think that's why I've been enjoying learning game dev recently and also making videos, because they both combine various themes. And the money part of the equation, the practical stuff, is very important. But right now, I don't want to start by focusing on that part yet, because another big requirement for me is that whatever I do, it needs to come from the heart. In the past, I have tried to lock in on the money part from the beginning, and from the start, basically try to monetize my hobbies or learn them in a certain way such that they can become the most monetizable. And I have learned that that does not work for me, because for me, if it's from the heart, then the money can follow. But if it's about money from the start, then heart cannot follow. And I do need heart. So right now, I would say I'm in the phase of just leveling up on various interests of mine and seeing where that gets me, seeing what I enjoy doing, seeing what opportunities come from getting better at the things that I like to do. And even though it seems like I've barely started, honestly, it's taken me a few years to get to this point where I'm even in the mindset of like being able to even know what I like, what my interests are, and having the energy to pursue those things. The phase before this, I was basically just like recovering from burnout and just trying to start the fire again. Having vague dreams is especially scary. It's pretty scary to not even know exactly what you want. There's fear that you'll never really figure it out. There is pressure to have things set in stone now, because it already takes so much time and effort to pursue a concrete goal, but you don't even have those concrete details figured out yet. You don't even know exactly what you're going for yet. That's pretty scary. During my burnout phase, I would feel so desperate, just trying to cling and commit quickly to something so that I can get my life started, is how it felt. But at the same time, there's fear of committing to a path because you're still discovering what you want and who you are really. And so how would you know that this is indeed the right path for you? During these kind of funky periods, it can be very confusing because we're not just dealing with our internal voice, we're also probably dealing with the opinions of others. There are lots of people out there in our lives on the internet with many different opinions about what you should be doing. So who should we listen to? For me, it just makes sense to me to, even if I'm hearing everyone out, people that I really listen to are people who at least tried, people who at least relate to my values, relate to having a dream that they care so much about. And I especially listen to people who have achieved it, at least in my eyes. And I swear every single one of them, every single self-made person that's chased their dream and found success, what they always say is to basically lock in. If you have a dream and it matters that much to you, you really do gotta lock in. And in the past, I used to think that locking in meant you had to do something pretty extreme. Like maybe you literally lock yourself in your room and just grind for 16 hours a day. But now I don't interpret locking in as meaning you have to do something extreme. You have to quit your job and go all in. Well, I did quit my job, but what lock in means to me now is commit. Decide what you're gonna do to get closer to your goal and then do it. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. If I'm recovering from burnout and I know what I need right now is to just regen, I commit to a week of taking a true break and not doing anything productive. If I'm trying to discover what I truly like doing, I choose something that I think might be kind of interesting and then I commit to doing that. I go and do the thing for just that day or for 30 minutes a week. If I think that what I need to do right now might be to just level up, to get good because right now I'm not good enough at stuff to even know what I'm talented in, then I commit. I decide that for this month I will be doing this every single day. And it doesn't have to be every single day, but whatever it is, you commit to it. And the interesting thing about locking in is that you get better at locking in general. The more you do it, you get better at knowing your pace and what works best for you. And especially in the context of me having kind of vague dreams, trying to figure out what kind of cool things exactly I want to make, I've been liking getting in the habit of making short-term decisions. Locking in for short periods of time. Like for 1 month, I'll try this, or until I finish this short project, and I'll work on it a little bit every day. By getting in this habit of making these short-term commitments to help me get closer to my dreams, it's really helped me get unstuck from that fear of committing to a path when I don't understand myself well enough yet, or I don't understand my interests or talents well enough yet. But I do think it's easier said than done because admittedly, sometimes it's scary to even make that short-term commitment. It's scary to make any type of step forward because a step forward is a chance to get closer to your dreams, but it's also a chance for you to meet a dead end. And that kind of sucks. These days where I feel stuck are tough because it makes me kind of depressed that I'm stuck. And then being depressed makes it harder to become unstuck. And also being depressed and anxious makes it harder to sleep. And then I'm tired during the day, which makes it harder to do anything during the day. It's always hard to stop negative momentum once it starts. But I do think that over time, I'm getting better at stopping it sooner. Another thing that I've learned over the years is that I have a tendency to suppress my emotions. For example, when I'm feeling anxious, I used to just kind of try to not be anxious or think to myself you shouldn't be anxious, stop being anxious. But nowadays, I've been getting better at letting those negative feelings flow, giving them their moment. Because you know what? These negative feelings, sometimes they're a bit too much, but they are just trying to help. I try not to act on them, but I do hear them out and try to understand where they're coming from. For example, personally, when I get these lows that are related to not being where I want to be yet, it's usually because of one of three things for me. One, I've been going a little too easy mode and I gotta crank up the level a little bit. I'm ready to skill up. Two, I've been taking too long of a break or procrastinating because I'm scared of taking that step forward. And it's time for me to take that step. Or three, it's the other extreme. I'm a little too tunneled in, a little too lost in the sauce, and I gotta go touch grass, talk to other human beings, and remind myself that life exists outside of the main plot line too. The reason why I still try to chase my dream, even when I'm afraid, I think it's because I remember being a winner. I have that memory of a win that's cemented in my childhood. And it was so impactful that I carried that with me, that evidence that I can do what I set out to do. I have this core memory from my childhood where I had this school project. And for that project, I made a animation for this poem. I think it was like a Sylvia Plath poem, and I was super proud of it. And I presented it to the class and everyone was so wowed. And I have memories of like, you know, I was a nerd, so winning math competitions, and also art competitions, because I was an artsy nerd. But I think basically these memories of like working really hard towards something and accomplishing it and being very proud of it are the kind of things that still stick with me today and make me a dreamer even as an adult. These memories of winning, which is why I think that it's so important to keep giving yourself wins, because I can't live off the memory of that one school project that went well in high school, you know? Some wins have longer effects than others, but all wins are fleeting in the end. So I gotta keep giving myself wins, is what I realized. And when I'm feeling like really in a rut, I have this thought of like, I really need a win. It's been a long time since I've had a win. When you haven't had a win in a long time, you start to doubt yourself because you start to bet on the side of losing. So I try my best to give myself wins, big and small. And sometimes that's hard when you have kind of perfectionist tendencies. Like I don't want to put something out there because I feel like it's not good enough yet. I'm not good enough yet. I'm not ready yet. But I try to still get myself to do it anyway because I need that win. It's a win to get something out there. And having these big wins toward the goal, toward the dream, tend to be the most impactful. But there are wins outside of the goal. For example, for me, talking to someone that I feel very connected with, like a good friend, is a huge win, especially because I do have some social anxiety and I'm a little awkward. So reaching out to call that person and having a great conversation out of it is a big win for me. And you know, it's a huge win in general to have somebody that cares for you. In this economy, quality time with a loved one always makes me feel more motivated and helps me to get out of my head if I've been feeling a little stuck in my head a little bit. It's like when you're watching a sports drama or like a shonen anime for y'all weebs out there. You know, in general, it is about becoming the very best, but it's also about love, and it's also about friendship and family and resolving childhood trauma and making beautiful memories. So I try to remind myself of that it's about everything, and not in the sense of like people that try to tell you to give up on your dreams, being like, oh, life is more than your dreams, so stop caring so much about it. Not in that sense. In the sense of you can care a lot about your dream, but you can also care about other things in life too. Also, another important thing is to remind yourself to acknowledge your wins. Remind yourself that you're a winner. What you just did, that was a win. You know, like I said, every once in a while I have these moments or days where I feel kind of doubtful and I feel kind of anxious. And some days I feel kind of existential. Like, bro, what's the point of all this caring about something? And I swear I'm always this close to shaving my head bald and becoming a monk. Imagine. But at the end of the day, I really truly do think it's cool to be a dreamer, because not everyone has a dream. Not everyone is willing to chase their dream. A dream is such a special thing to have, and I think it should be cherished. I think it would be very sad to let go of a dream. And maybe we won't accomplish exactly what we imagine our dreams to be right now. Or maybe our dreams will change over time, or rather find their shape and take form as we live and experience new things and learn more about ourselves. Kind of like how I used to think that my dream was to become a product designer at a company, and that was not it. But what I do know is that if we keep trying, if we keep reaching for that goal, we'll accomplish at least some version of it. It's pretty scary that the future is so uncertain. It's pretty scary not having the answers. But what I've been liking to tell myself these days is that life is not about having the answers. It's about living the questions. Damn, that's a banger line, but I don't remember where it's from. But I'll leave this video on that note. Stay safe and take care, y'all. Cheers to our dreams. Bye.